Good morning, everyone. It's Joker, and today we are back with another slime video. And the end of the month is here, essentially the end of the meta, and that of course means everybody's favorite event, Heroes Jubilee, number 40. And this time, it's okay. We have the bait banner right now for the New Year's Blessing, and New Year's Blessing is heavily involved in all of these fights in one way or another. So if you have the New Year's team already, great. And if you don't, well, that's kind of unfortunate. But as you can see, we are, sitting with the other rank ones all over here. It's, I think, impossible to get that one extra point to get to 72.5 for Normal Battle 2. Not a big deal. But we're going to be looking at Normal Battle 1 today, which is an AoE stage, which wants you to use a Fire Nuker. So there's 3 mushrooms. They don't do a lot except buff their attack. You start with a special convert for greens, and yeah, they want you to use a Fire Nuker. So there are options. Not all of them are good, but it is what it is. But let's get the disclaimers out of the way. Disclaimer number 1 is your results may vary because I have different units and different dupes and different gear than you. Please use this video as an example and then tailor the team to meet what you can do. Don't use my team exactly, like you have to use what you have available to you. Disclaimer number 2 is that these are the units I use for protection gauge, and these are the units I use for skill point gain. You'll see them a lot. And then disclaimer number 3 is don't forget to go into your town and optimize your fire building to get the most out of your Fire Nuker. But with that said, let's jump in. So alright, before we start, just want to make another small disclaimer. Sometimes I tell you the charms I use, sometimes I don't. Mostly for Normal Battle 1, I use the AoE damage charm, the 8%er, that is fully maxed out. And then for Normal Battle 2, I use the AoE charm, and then I also, for the very final clip, use the protection, or the alt gauge on greens. So we're going to be looking at, let's see, where is it? Increase soul skills, secret skill gauge by 40%. That's for Normal Battle 2's final clip. Otherwise, we are pretty much running with the AoE damage charm, which is up here somewhere. Somewhere being the keyword in charm effect level. Thank you. AoE damage. Here we go. All allies, all target attack by 8%. That's what we're using for most of the time. And then for Normal Battle 3, we are using protection gauge on blues, essentially, because we're trying to stack. Also, in every single normal battle that I'm running, none of the units have attack gear on, except for the nuking character, because none of these fights are very tanky. I don't want to do much damage with anybody else except the nuker, who I want to nuke with. So, under all of Normal Battle 1, 2, and 3, none of these frontline characters have attack gear on, just the nuking character. So there's disclaimer number 4, technically, and 5. Alright, the first team is going to be a New Year's Blessing-ish team, and it's essentially going to run the same way that everybody uses in Valor Cup. We've got Xion, giving physical characters guaranteed crit, guaranteed synergy, 30 points per turn. We've got Summer Hinata to steal. We've got New Year's Milim to help buff. We've got Soe to help us with the defense, because if we're going to get max score, you need to not take really any damage here. New Year's Reamer's in the back. His only job is to convert to all the Hinata orbs to rainbow, so then we can bring in Shizu and use her EX ult and buffs. So very simple, very brain dead, as long as you have the key options. If you don't care about, max score, you can drop Soe for somebody else. It really doesn't matter. But let's go ahead and find where we need to be. Okay, so loading in. We're only going to send a few orbs, because we're just going to use Soe's debuff skill and defense skill. So they give themselves physical resistance, doesn't really matter, we're going to do enough. So, Soe debuff, he has to be skill fused for this, so that's another thing. So if you don't really care, then don't worry. But we're going to send just 3 orbs, because we want to preserve that Hinata orb and guarantee that we get at least 3 of her. So 1 damage there. We can only take 1 damage if you want to max this out. So 1 across the board. Now we've got 83 points because of the stuff from Xion. We're going to steal with Hinata. We're going to bring New Year's Rimuru in. We're going to rainbow with him. And then we're going to swap him out for Shizu. And, I mean, And next turn, what do you think we're going to do? Here we do have to spread damage out, but it's, again, she doesn't do that much on her normal orbs, all things considered. 6,500. They still have half HP left. He's going to have a little bit less because it's a 200% orb. But now we have, I think, exactly enough points. So 1, 1, and 1. Here is kind of important, though. So turn 2, you really can't have any of them hit Shizu because she doesn't have the defense buff. Unless she's, like, heavily duped up, which mine is not, she will take, like, 74 damage or something, or 200 damage, depending on your gear, or more. So in order to get the max score, they can only hit Milim or Soe, unless she's duped. But now we'll use the 2 buffs, so Shizu's 100% plus the EX ult, plus Milim's synergy power and ult resistance down. We'll do Xion to give ourselves the guaranteed crit, guaranteed synergy. We have the AoE charm on, and we do 564. So that, I think, 8% AoE damage charm that we have on Xion does help our damage a lot. We took 6 damage total. The damage cap is 1.4 million, and we did 1.7. So there is the max score for normal Battle 1. Just going to put this in really quick. You can do the same team. If you don't have Shizu, you could use Summer Lumi. Spoiler alert, she doesn't do as much because her own buff is not nearly as powerful. But if we run the team the exact same way, and we just buff, so we've used it's now 60% alt buff right here for Lumi. We've got the Milim buff active. We've put the guaranteed grit, guaranteed synergy on, and then we can nuke with Summer Lumi, who does have an EX ult. And we go ahead and send it, and she does not as much, 239, so like half the damage of Shizu. So it's an option if you have her, and if you don't have Shizu and you want a score, but we still took 0 damage right there because it's still the same strategy, it's just we have a not as good nuker. Alright, next up is an older, quote-unquote, team, right? Exalted Champion Velzard, not that old. Dark Milim, kind of old. Isis, same age as Milim. EX Mirren, who, you may or may not have, we're using her as a substitute for Soe in case you don't have him skill fused. You can only get Mirren from tickets, so maybe you have her, maybe you don't, I don't know. We're going to use Fire Benimaru as our nuker. He is magic, he is fire, he is AoE. So, I mean, it can work. And then we've got Space Violet to help buff Benimaru as well. So I think I have to cut real fast here. Maybe, hold on. Alright, here we go. So this team obviously runs a bit differently than what we were doing with the first team. So we've got Dark Milim for the Orb Convert. We again have the AoE charm on Velzard just to help us do more damage because no one is giving us an AoE buff. So Orb change there. We've got the skill points so we can actually use the green buff from Isis. We're going to bring Benimaru in now, spreading the damage out so we don't heavily target one mushroom in particular. And then we're going to pray that we get at least, I think, 2 Benimaru orbs next turn, and we get more than 2. So that's the only real RNG here, is that how many Benimaru orbs do you get on turn 2? Because I want him to be in there for turn 1 to get that 6th send. We're going to use Mirren to lower their attack. She's not fully leveled out on that skill anyways, so, again, substitute, right? We're going to use Benimaru, we're going to use Velzard, which this is a dangerous play right here, because, we're giving us that extra damage output, so we have to be very conscious of who we're hitting right now. But it does make sure that we can get another Velzard because of the green buff, and if we spread the damage out consistently and accurately, we can make all of them live just barely. Now the thing with this team is, I don't have enough points to use Benimaru's own buff, because you see we had 105, because we had 130, Mirren's skill was only 25 points, so it didn't take us down to 100. We needed that extra 5 to make sure we can use the alt buff from Milim and the magic buff from Violet. So now we have another Velzard. We've got quite a few buffs going on Benimaru, who's very old, by the way. He's not skill fused either, so you don't have to worry about that, because we couldn't use it anyways. And he does 149k AoE. Not super great, but if that's your only fire option, and you have Exalted Champion Velzard, as I think most of you should have, then you can certainly use this team and get an okay score. Alright, next up, we're going to use Protector Frey, converting to greens, giving all physical characters crit, so that's kind of nice. We've got Lumi to be our Orb Converter turn 1. We've got Space Carrion, because he gives all allies 20% crit damage. we've got the hero for the rewind. And that's pretty much the only reason why she's here. We don't need crits from her because we're already getting it from Frey. We've got Fire Christmas Shizu as our Fire AoE nuker. She's got the Fire buff. If she skill fuses, she has that Fire debuff. And she also has the AoE buff that we can just help get more damage out of her. And then Fount of Wisdom Rimuru for the physical buff. So, and again, we're running the AoE damage charm on Frey. So, it's going to run the same way kind of as Exalted Champion the last clip did. We're going to convert here. We do have the rewind though, and we're going to use it because I need to build up and then send Shizu away in order to use all the buffs available. So she'll come in, boom. Rimuru will come in because we've got protection gauge underneath him with the Shion, and then that's it. And we'll send the damage again. We really don't do a lot here. We're going to take some hits because the hero is type disadvantage. Not super great, but again, it's options, right? So following up, we got 3 Shizu orbs. That's going to be the more RNG, just like the Benimaru. How many orbs can you get? And this time we don't even have the green buff from Isis here to really help us, which is why we're going to use the rewind. We're just going to have to make sure that we get multiple orbs for her. So we rewound. We also use Shizu's debuff because it does last for 2 turns, so it's active here and next turn. We carried in, used his crit damage buff because we can hold it. We've used Frey, give us the guaranteed crit. We're again going to spread the damage out, and because we don't do a lot, we're going to send Shizu last just to get their health a little bit lower. And then when the rewind kicks in, Shizu will have crits, she'll have the crit damage, the AoE debuff from her is already applied, and she can go away. So we can build back up to whatever we need to send the fire buff and everything, and the physical Rimuru buff. So we're pretty much just going to hold here, and we're not going to use anything now. We're just going to send these 3 orbs and get the damage a little bit higher, because we don't need to use Frey here, and we also don't need to use any other skills. So we're going to hold, and we're going to have 140 to play with now, as long as we have someone to swap out, which we have 2 characters that you could safely swap out. We just can't swap Rimuru. So Shizu comes in, we'll use the physical buff, 65% plus the 20 down. Frey, again, guaranteed crits, which she already had, but more importantly, 40 skill points, puts us at 60, which means we can use the fire buff from Shizu, and then we can nuke. She's not an EX character, she only does 88k, so yeah, it's not super duper great, but it is an option using fairly old characters now. Alright, the last team looks kind of similar. We've got Towa now, though, instead of Frey or Velzard. We've still got Lumi. We still have Shizu. We've got Water Rimuru here. He's a placeholder, don't worry about him. We've got Fire Velzard, who is a pretty self-sufficient AoE nuker. And then we again have the hero, this time to actually give crits to Velzard. So this team will do roughly the same amount of damage as the last clip, and this is the final clip of the video. Okay. So again, Lumi will convert turn 1. Now, we have less RNG to deal with on this team for turn 2, because Velzard does have a double orb steal. So even if you don't get the greatest amount of orbs for her, we're guaranteed at least 1 coming in, and as long as we can get a few more of her, either by naturally doing it or by stealing, we're guaranteed an ult, because again, we will have the access to the rewind if necessary. So we're going to spread the damage out again, we're going to send the hero last, that way we don't do too much. And then we technically have 2 orbs for Velzard. They're gonna be oranges if you use Towa. But you don't have to. You don't have to. Because if we rewind here, and then we just steal the orbs anyways, these 4 orbs will get us the Velzard ult. And then we don't have to use Towa right now. We can build up some extra protection gauge here, spread the damage out, boom. Alright, excellent. And then we'll send this. And then now, because of the protection gauge and everything that we've got going on, I do have, I believe, I think I've got the protection gauge on Orange's charm on instead of the AoE damage. I guess we'll find out in a second. But now, Velzard's got her ult. She can go away. We'll use Towa. And let's see what she's got. Skill pointing. No, it's an AoE. Alright, so we still have the AoE charm on. But if we send all this with the extra protection gauge that we're getting from the hero, we'll get another Towa, which is great because now we have access to another 140 points, and we need exactly 140 to nuke here. So, boom, boom, boom. All right, double hit hero, not great. But as long as we have orbs for Lumi, like you can see Reamer didn't do jack crap here. Don't worry about him. But crit buff, awesome. We'll use Towa, another 40 points. That'll put us at 85, and that will give us exactly enough to use the fire buff, the debuff, and Velzard's own personal buff. So 1, 2, 3. Out of points there. But, I mean, Velzard was pretty self-sufficient here, and she's a very old unit. Very old. So we'll go ahead and send her ult, and she does 120. So, you know, okay. Again, okay damage for a very old character, for a very old team. But there we go. There are technically five, because if you count the Lumi, teams that you can use to take on normal Battle 1 of Heroes Jubilee 40. Let me know what you think in the comments below, or if you have any other team builds that you use that work that I didn't, let people know in the comments. But that's it from me, guys. Take it easy, and I'll see you all later.